AAA video games have been struggling to compete with AA's and even indies. We are talking about Silk Songs hitting hundreds of thousands of people. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and Arc Raiders has retained 90% of its peak player count as Battlefield 6 is losing over 80%. You've got titles like Ubisoft's Avatar Frontiers of Pandora quadrupling in player counts, but they're still tiny. And really, a lot of these studios must be panicking right now. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, when you create bad content, you don't deserve to be rewarded for it, and we have seen AAA studios get very lazy. They are playing it far too safe. They are not listening to their player base, whereas indies and AA's are listening. They are trying to make a game that people are actually going to want to buy. And most importantly, they're not pushing political agendas with their work, and they are being rewarded for it. High quality, really fun experiences are what people want. And that is what we really are getting, just not by the Ubisofts, the BioWares, the EAs, the Obsidians. And we're finding out a lot of pretty insane number differences. You've got Arc Raiders doing phenomenal. Silk Song, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, those doing really good. But we're hearing that Avatar Frontiers of Pandora has done crazy numbers because of the release of Fire and Ash, but those numbers still aren't good. And Battlefield 6 is failing. So let's start with Avatar. The new movie has come out. It's done really good so far, no shocker there, and it's actually led to the open world action game from Ubisoft seeing a substantial rise in players following the release of this movie. For the most part, when Frontiers of Pandora arrived in 2023, it was seen as a disappointment. Yeah, it lacked a lot of features, there wasn't a lot of world building, and it did not play all that good. It was repetitive, it was not a solid experience, but based on info from SteamDB, the number of people playing Avatar Frontiers of Pandora has shot up in recent weeks. Now, you might be thinking a movie that will easily make over $1 billion. I think they're estimating $1.7 billion by the end of its theatrical run. You would expect maybe 100,000 people to be willing to play this, but that's not the case. In fact, the game's all-time concurrent peak player count happened within the past 24 hours on Steam when 12,496 people were playing it at once. So we are talking about quadrupling their player count, which is just so funny because this is a Ubisoft game, and that means that it was doing horrendous. That means its peak was 3,000 to maybe like 3,500 maximum, because it is a little bit higher now at just over 13,000 people. So we are not talking about it going from 50,000 to 200,000. Yeah, this is not a good look. If this is the best you have to boast about, I'm sorry, you deserve to be shut down. And this is when Ubisoft is going through some of the worst times that their company has ever faced. They have just had the worst security breach in the history of the industry happen to them. Their games are failing, their stocks are tanking. It's not a good time to be a Ubisoft fan. And to top that off, we also are, funny enough, seeing Arc Raiders dominating because it had retained 90% of its peak player count as Battlefield 6 loses over 80% of its player base. And Battlefield 6 is fun to a certain extent. I played quite a bit of it, but they also have gotten lazy. Arc Raiders has already released a new map. They're allegedly releasing a new map in January. They have holiday and winter events going on. They had the expedition system, which is basically like prestiging, starting from the ground floor and working your way back up to the top of the tower. In terms of ranks, you are talking about them innovating and updating and listening, where Battlefield 6 just released and they said, oh, this will keep players entertained for a while, and that's really not the case. As we can see over on SteamDB, Arc Raiders is sitting at 366,000 players in-game right now, and the 24-hour peak was 428,579, which is very close to the all-time peak that it hit 2 months ago at 481,000 people. Do you know what Battlefield 6 is sitting at right now? 105,000 players. And also, keep in mind that this is just not a low-budget game. I mean, this title had at least $150 million put into it. Sure, its all-time peak is significantly higher than Arc Raiders at 747,000, but if most of your players abandon your game, that all-time peak doesn't really matter anymore because you are selling less copies, you are selling less cosmetics, and you are not having as much interaction in the community. Like, people have moved on from your game already. Arc Raiders is one of the biggest and best multiplayer surprises this year. The game has reportedly surpassed 7 million sales across PS5, Xbox, and PC, and it won Best Multiplayer at the Game Awards on December 11th. Another big factor is that Arc Raiders is only a $40 game, and it's actually on sale right now, so it's nearly $30. I believe it's like $32 right now. That is crazy when you were comparing it to something like Battlefield 6 that is $70. Tech for Gamers reports that Arc Raiders has retained 86% of its player base. However, yeah, we're not talking about it being so good in terms of Battlefield 6 because it has lost over 80% of its player base. This is absolutely hilarious and also absolutely pathetic because Arc Raiders was the best-selling game on Steam over the holiday period. And honestly, you love to see it because competition breeds creativity. I am so glad that finally we are seeing there being competition in really every genre in the video game industry. It's not just, oh, Call of Duty comes out and it succeeds. Oh, Battlefield 6 comes out and it succeeds. Nobody's even been talking about Battlefield 6 because most players have already given up on it. Nobody's even talking about Black Ops 7 because most people have given up on it. And it's just great to see this happening because it could mean positive change in the future. If companies are not making the money they expect, they have to change their product. They have to change their mentality, and that means they actually have to show up and deliver us the experience we're asking for. And it's really pathetic that a company as big as Ubisoft now has to boast about 13,000 players on Steam, and the media has to run damage control for them and say, oh my gosh, it's doing so good, when we're talking about games like Arc Raiders that are $32 right now on sale, that have been updated multiple times, and those are sitting at hundreds of thousands of people. So yeah, right now, AA's are dominating and AAA's are failing, and you love to see this happening. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.